This is ContraZoom,
where we go back and forth about film.
I'm Dakota Arsenault.
And I'm Rachel Ho.
We have officially turned the calendar on 2021 and are now looking forward to 2022. We did our Oscar shows, we looked at our favorite movies of the year, and now it's time to look at what movies we're most excited about that are coming out this year. Now, because it is already May, we're not going to look at ones that have already come out or ones that are coming out in the next little bit. We're going to look forward to as much as we can. So this is a movie preview for the rest of the year. Obviously, there's going to be a whole bunch of titles that either don't have proper release dates, we don't even know about, things that are going to be surprise hits that come out of festivals and come out of nowhere. So we're not going to be able to hit everything. Instead, we have both picked 5 movies that we have thought that look exciting to us and either have an absolute confirmed date for this year or very heavily confirmed for this year. So there's going to be a couple at the very end where there is a TBD release date, but still it is very likely to be believed that it is coming out this year. If not, then sorry about that. But Rachel, looking forward to this year, do you think, because I know you are not super crazy about the year 2021 as a whole, do you think 2022 looks better or about the same for you?
Better. I would say we're going to do an episode on this later, but I've already seen a number of movies that I'm fairly confident will be in my top 10 of the year, but will also be movies that like I rewatch constantly for the next few years. So far so good. It looks promising, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of movies that come out like towards the end of the year, the Oscar-y, buzzy type movies and TIFF and all that kind of stuff. So I think what we've already got is really cool, and I think it looks promising. I don't want to jinx it, but it looks promising.
Of course not, of course. So, like I said, we're going to do this in chronological order with our first ones, so it's not going to be back and forth exactly, but I feel like we can confidently talk about all these movies. Rachel, your first pick is up first, so what is a movie you're looking forward to?
My first pick, I feel like we're doing it's like the NFL draft that just happened yesterday. So my first pick is a movie called Men, and it's a new A24 movie that's going to be coming out theatrically May 20th in the States and June 1st in the UK. It's also going to have its premiere at the Cannes Film Festival.
There's nothing more that we can do.
Apple from the garden?
Yeah, it was delicious.
No. Mustn't do that. Forbidden fruit.
Oh, God, sorry,
I'm joking.
Oh.
You're tormented.
It feels more like
Haunted.
Yeah.
It's directed by Alex Garland, and it's about a young woman, or this is the tagline on IMDb. A young woman goes on a solo vacation to the English countryside following the death of her ex-husband. That's an incredibly vague tagline, I just realized. But it stars Jessie Buckley, who recently got nominated for an Academy Award in The Lost Daughter, and she's also in Chernobyl and Fargo. She's a really, really great actress. I'm really looking forward to seeing her in it. The trailer looks bonkers. The poster looks bonkers. For A24 fans, or just film fans, really, Alex Garland is probably a name that you know very well. He directed Ex Machina, and he wrote 28 Days Later, and also my favorite Danny Boyle movie, Sunshine. The movie looks like it's like a big nightmare. Like, it just looks like a nightmare playing out in real time. It looks like it's going to be something that talks about grief and trauma, of course, when they're talking about the death of her ex-husband. I don't really know exactly what to expect from it, but it just looks like a really not exciting, that's probably not the right word, a really intriguing film that is probably right up my street.
Yeah, this is one that looks very curious. It looks a little maybe too scary for me, if we're being a little bit honest.
I'll let you know.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, because I'll eventually have to watch it regardless for our A24 retrospective. So I'll have to buckle up for that. But yeah, you're right. There's a whole bunch of like names that really pop out involved in this project. Alex Garland, chief among them. Huge fan of Ex Machina. I was a little so on Annihilation, but I know there's a lot of people who are big fans of that. still he is, one of the most unique and original creators working today. And anytime his name is attached to anything, you're going to have to pay attention. And Jessie Buckley, you're right. She just got nominated for an Oscar. I've loved her since I saw her in Wild Rose a couple of years ago. And she always turns in fantastic performances. Even if I didn't like The Lost Daughter, I thought she was the best part of it. And then starring across from her is Rory Kinnear in a whole bunch of roles, it looks like. And people probably maybe not know his name, but if you see his face, you definitely would recognize, oh yeah, I've seen him. He's been in the recent James Bond movies. He was in The Imitation Game. He's been in the TV show Penny Dreadful, the new show Our Flag Means Death. You definitely would recognize him once you see him. So I think that's an exciting lead role for him. But overall, I think this movie sort of looks like I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which starred Jessie Buckley, but with a way more horror twist to it. You mentioned it looks like a walking nightmare. It looks like so much about this is going to be psychological with some jump scares at it, which I'm Thinking of Ending Things didn't have. So this is going to be a really interesting one, and I think people are really going to love it, and I think it's going to maybe confound people as well.
Definitely. I think it's a horror movie, but it looks so visual. Like you say, it's probably going to have those jumpy scares and all that kind of stuff, but like the visuals that we've seen from it so far, they're that kind of nice blend in horror movies where they're like very haunting and creepy, but very beautiful at the same time. So yeah, I can't wait for that one. I think it's going to be good. And that one's like, it's soon, right? It's just about a month from now, or a month from when we're recording. So that's a good one to keep an eye out for, I think.
Yep, absolutely.
So my next movie is kind of cheating. I'm not going to lie. This movie, it was released over in the UK already, and it's called The Phantom of the Open. It's opening on June 17th here in Canada. It's going to have a limited theatrical release. It is a smaller movie. The movie is about Maurice Flitcroft, who is a dreamer and unrelenting optimist, and he manages to gain entry to the British Open Golf Championship, qualifying in 1976, and he subsequently he shoots the worst round in Open history and becomes a folk hero in the process. So this is based off of a true story. The director is Craig Roberts, and it's starring Mark Rylance. And Mark Rylance is kind of the reason that I thought, one, the story sounds really funny, but like two, I just think Mark Rylance, anything he's in, I'm usually very game for, because I think he's such a great actor. And this sounds like a bit more of a comedic spin for him, which I'm really excited to see. But yeah, this guy Flitcroft, he just, he was kind of a hoaxer, like a troll, like a 1976 troll, online troll, but like he just kept applying to the British Open and under false names and like disguises and all this stuff, and just felt like making a mockery of it for whatever reason. Like, I'm sure there's some funny psychological reason for that. But it played at the London Film Festival last year. It has amazing reviews. I've heard it's really, really great, and I've heard Mark Rylance is really, really amazing. So yeah, this is one that it came up on my radar maybe about a month ago, and I can't wait to see it. It looks like it's going to be a nice kind of small summer movie to watch. That'll be very light and enjoyable, but probably a little bit dark as well.
Yeah, this is one where I never heard of it until you sent me the title for it. And so I haven't watched the trailer yet, but yeah, the name Mark Rylance, Sally Hawkins, and Rhys Ifans is in it too. The three of them are just sort of like quintessential, really solid actors. And I've never seen a bad performance from Mark Rylance. So yeah, I'm sure this is going to be a bit of a delightful movie. It kind of falls under the subgenre of sports movies of so bad. The athletes are so bad, it's entertaining. I'm thinking of stuff like Cool Runnings or Eddie the Eagle, things like that, where people who are the real underdogs for whatever reason, against all odds, kind of make themselves a well-known person.
It's like, yeah, it's like they say it in the tagline, but it's like a folk hero, right?
Yes.
He's just somebody that the people look at it and think that's hilarious, and I want this guy to succeed. Even exactly, like, just, it's like a funny thing where you take something down, especially I think if you're talking about like Britain back in the 70s and, kind of the class system, and golf being something that was typically seen as being like more upper class kind of thing to do. So for somebody to come in and just kind of turn it on its head, I think that that's a really intriguing thing. I don't know if that's why he did it. I should be clear. Because I tried not to read too much about him after I looked him up very briefly on Wiki. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I've seen, like, I always really like British films and like British kind of comedic sensibility. I always gravitate towards that. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Nice. Well, my first pick is Thor Love and Thunder, coming out on July 8th.
These hands were once used for battle. Now they're but humble tools for peace. I need to figure out exactly who I am.
And it's Thor enlists the help of Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to fight Gore, the god butcher, who intends to make the gods extinct. This is the fourth movie in the Thor franchise, and the second one directed and written by Taika Waititi. And I loved the last Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok. It was probably my favorite Marvel movie so far, or at least up there in the top 2 to 3. I love Taika Waititi's sense of humor, you know, from his older stuff like What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People, and I really love Jojo Rabbit, even though that was a bit of a divisive movie for some people. I still really loved it. And so I've been very excited, waiting for the follow-up to Thor Ragnarok for a few years now. And it's nice that they're continuing this, you know, very comedic style, but also bringing in some really interesting people. Looks like the Guardians of the Galaxy people are all involved in this. Natalie Portman is returning after not being in the last one. And then you've got Christian Bale playing the villain in this as Gore the God Butcher, which is an amazing name. So I'm very excited for this. Are you a fan of the Thor movies in general, Rachel?
I like the last Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok. I think that's a very, very good MCU movie.
Hot take.
Is that a hot take?
No, it's not at all.
I was like,
that one.
Swear everyone likes it. I will say the first Thor I actually think is a little underappreciated. I think that it's like a lot of people, I think because the second one's not great, is it? Like the second Thor is not great. And that's partly, I think, Branagh maybe taking the Shakespearean element of it a little bit too far. I don't know. But I appreciate what Branagh was trying to do in the first Thor. And I saw him say in an interview, he was like, Thor is just basically becoming Chris Hemsworth. Like there's not much difference between who, and I get that because so Thor is a little bit different. But I will say though, I don't think this is a hot take because I think a lot of people might agree. I'm getting a little like MCU fatigue. I've never been like a diehard MCU fan. I've always been more of like a Batman, DC, Superman kind of girl, but I've enjoyed a lot of the Marvel movies. I think like I actually really like WandaVision, the TV show that they did last year. But I'm just getting a little bit tired. I'm just like, there's just so many to the point that I'm like not as keen on making sure I catch everything than I probably might have been 5 years ago. Are you feeling that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I think to a lesser extent. I'll probably still keep up with the movies. When the TV shows started coming out, I was very gung-ho about trying to stay on top of them, but then I haven't watched Hawkeye or What If. I've skipped past them both, and now I'm currently watching Moon Knight, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. If I end up missing some of the TV shows, whatever, because it seems like the plan is you don't need to watch the TV shows in order to be up to date on the movies. And some of the movies, it definitely sort of feels like if you skip a couple, you're going to be left out of the loop. But regardless, Thor is the one I'm most excited for. I love this franchise. I think it's turned around so well, and what Chris Hemsworth has done with this character has been fantastic. So I'm definitely going to catch this. It's one I'm very excited about.
I think I'm definitely going to watch it too, just out of sheer obligation. Maybe. We'll see. If someone pays for me, I'll go.
Yes. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. All right, so the next movie on our chronological list is Bullet Train, which comes out on July 15th in theaters. It is about 5 assassins aborting a fast-moving bullet train in Japan, and they find out that their missions have something in common. It is directed by David Leitch, who, if you know me, I mean, it kind of seems obvious I would pick this. He's one of the guys behind John Wick. He also directed Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2. He's at Hobbs and Shaw. It's got a massive ensemble cast. Brad Pitt, Brian Tyree Henry, who I really love. And I'm glad to see that he's getting like more and more roles, and they're quite varying as well. He's not just doing the same thing. He's in Atlanta, which they just had, I think their new season. Is it out yet? I don't know if it's out yet.
Yes, so the first few episodes have started to
air. Is it out now?
Yeah.
Michael Shannon, who, again, adore. You got Zazie Beetz, Sandra Bullock, I'm going to butcher his name, Hiroyuki Sanada. It just looks like I feel like it's such a tired thing to keep saying it's somebody's John Wick, but like, I think it's that action style of, you know, really more realistic action and just really well thought out action pieces, set pieces. And I like that there's a bit of it looks like we were just talking about Thor, so it kind of looks almost comic book like to me. Like you're on a train, like a bullet train, a single location, and like there's one briefcase that's on this train, and somehow all these assassins are they're tasked to go do something with it. I guess it's a bit of a difficult movie to talk about because like I don't really know much more information beyond that, other than it just looks really cool and the cast is interesting. I really like Brad Pitt as well. I think we're seeing like a really cool new era in his career, and we haven't seen him in an action movie in a little while. I'm trying to think now because he's been doing a bit more dramatic stuff, but I don't recall seeing him in an action movie recently. So I'm looking forward to it, and I mean, it kind of obvious pick for me just because David Leitch, and I do really like him. And he's got good like humor to him too. Like he does the films that he does, they inject a good amount of I guess the Ryan Reynolds-y type humor, which I enjoy.
Yeah, this one was on my list too, and I decided to let you have it just so that way we can still talk about another movie as well. But yeah, I'm very, very excited about it. The trailer looks very interesting. It's well put together. Brad Pitt doing comedy and doing action, two things he's very good at and sometimes underappreciated for, especially his comedy. I love when he does comedy. And David Leitch, you're right. He has a pretty solid track record so far. I caught up with Atomic Blonde a few years after it came out and was super impressed by it. I really enjoyed the first John Wick movie, which he was a co-director on, and then subsequently left the franchise. But yeah, the cast is pretty fantastic. As you were listing out, you didn't mention Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's also a really terrific actor and always kind of shows up and does weird things. But yeah, I'm very curious and excited about it. Obviously, on first glance, it's easy to make a comparison to something like Snowpiercer in the sense that it takes place on a speeding train and all the action takes place there and that sort of stuff, and also taking place in Asia and blah, 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 international cast, all that sort of interesting things. Obviously, it's going to be completely different. But yeah, I think you could probably safely say something like, it's like John Wick meets Snowpiercer. That kind of sounds like what it's going for. And saying those things, that kind of gets me excited.
Yeah, I'm here for that. That's a great description. They should just put that on the poster and just say, John Wick meets Snowpiercer. I think people would buy it. I like the aesthetic of it too. Like they have like a nice, that kind of neon quality that Tokyo's pretty well known for. And like, I guess Asian, like a lot of East Asian countries are known for that. So, I like David Leitch, like you said, he co-directed the first John Wick. And then he kind of went off and to start doing his own thing, but he's always kept the same kind of philosophy that I think that pushed John Wick at the beginning, which was, the action isn't overly choreographed. Like it's not as planned as maybe you see something like in Marvel movies or something like that, because they really try to get their actors to train up on different forms of martial arts. And then they have like a mixed bag. And then when they're filming, they can just kind of do a bit more improvisation, knowing that their actors are going to be safe. And obviously they have stunt people as well. But I've always loved that because I feel like it makes the action just a bit more kinetic and a bit more dynamic and less dance-like, which I find some action sequences can get like that. So I have a lot of high expectations for Bullet Train and for Brad Pitt. I'm hoping he pulls off the cool action stuff.
Yeah, I feel like if I was to kind of talk about the action in David Leitch's style, it's highly, it's not stylized. It is very visceral, and you can feel the pain that the performers are going through. You know, I think of something like the staircase scene in Atomic Blonde, where it's like that one take, and Charlize Theron, while being, you know, overmatched in the sense of the size, the fact that they're able to make a convincing fight between Charlize Theron and the guy that she was fighting feel very real and grounded, really added to it. And then also this idea of, you don't need to do 50 cuts for, you know, a 10-second sequence. You let the camera stay there, show the fight, you know, choose your angles correctly, make sure your actors know how to throw a punch, take a punch, fall down, all that sort of stuff. And that really adds to the thing. It adds to the believability. And I think that's, you know, starting with the John Wick movie, the first one, really kind of spawned this, you know, new revival of action films that actually show the action, because there's nothing more frustrating. And like, I love you, Liam Neeson, you're a terrific actor, but the action movies that you star in, like, we've all seen that clip of him jumping over a fence and like it having 10 takes for that, or 10 cuts. I don't want to see that in an action movie.
He's an older man, Liam Neeson.
He is, which is why he shouldn't be doing this nonsense.
Actually, you talk about like that. There was a really funny, I haven't seen the movie, but what's the last Indiana Jones that came out? Is it The Crystal Skull? Is that what it was called?
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it, but I saw this one clip because somebody thought it was really funny, and they sent it to me, and they were like, it's Indy on like a vine or something. Like he's like about to do the vine thing, and you like, I don't even, like you swing across, right? Like a thing. And it's Harrison Ford grabbing, like Harrison Ford, also an elderly man, grabbing the vine. And then like when they cut to the actual swinging, like it's very clearly some 20-year-old. And it's just like, why put that in your script if your actors can't physically do, and there's nothing wrong with not being able to do something like that. Like, you're older. Indy was never meant to be a superhero. Indy is a man. So if Indy is older, make him be older. And I feel like that would make for a much more interesting film if you just say, like, because if we want to keep reviving all of these old action movies from the 80s and the 90s, the actors are now, you know, past middle age. So why not just adapt to that rather than bringing in a 20-something-year-old stunt double, or doing the 20 clips, like you said, like the 20 different cuts of Liam Neeson jumping over a fence, which probably wasn't even Liam Neeson, I guess. It was just a stunt guy.
I don't know, yeah.
But if it was a stunt guy, then why do so many cuts? But
right?
I digress. Yeah. It's fine. I should note, though, you're talking like really highly about, you know, those types of action movies. Nobody is a great example of that, and you should probably go watch that at some point.
I've never heard of that movie. Is there somewhere I can listen to someone talking about it?
It's funny you say that, Dakota. I believe it was on my, I don't remember what number I put it at now. Number 4, I think, on my top 10 list in episode, insert number here, of contrazoompod. I think it was our 2-3 episodes ago from this one, I want to say.
Interesting. So you're saying people should check out the top 10 movies of 2021 from contrazoompod?
Yeah. I believe there will be a link in the show notes.
Now that you mention it, yes, I will. Let's move on because this is getting
I believe
weird.
that there will be. All right, the next movie comes out a week after Bullet Train, which will be July 22nd, and the movie is Nope.
Did you know that the very first assembly of photographs to create a motion picture was a 2-second clip of a black man on a horse? And that man is my great-great-grandfather.
Great.
There's another great-grandfather. But that's why back at the Haywood Ranch, as the only black-owned horse trainers in Hollywood, we like to say, since the moment pictures could move, we had skin in the game.
This is a really, like, obvious one to include on a 2022 movie preview list, because it's Jordan Peele is directing it, and I think once you say Jordan Peele's directing it, you kind of, like, full stop. That's all you need to know. I have seen the trailer and I still don't understand what it's about. I'm reading the tagline from IMDb. I still don't really get what it's about. They write, the residents of a lonely gulch in inland California bear witness to an uncanny and chilling discovery. It doesn't really give you very much information. All I know is Daniel Kaluuya's in it. Kaluuya, sorry, not the drink. Kaluuya, Kiki Palmer, and Stephen Yeun are in it as well. And that is a sweet cast. Like the three of them, it's a sweet cast. I saw the preview for this movie in IMAX when I was watching The Batman, probably my second or third time watching The Batman. And it was in the IMAX theater. It was the loudest thing ever. Like they pumped the volume for that trailer. It like nearly scared me when it came on. I just wasn't expecting it to be so loud. But it looks really cool. And I mean, like, it's just one of those movies that it literally is based off of what Jordan Peele has done in the past. I know everybody pretty much likes Get Out. I know some people aren't as keen on Us, but I think we can all agree Jordan Peele is one of these directors that he just does such interesting things to the genre. He adds social commentary in a very unique way that isn't done by, I would say, any other filmmaker does it the way that he does.
Not on the budget that he can do it at, too.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Yeah, like he's not, Chris Nolan, Oppenheimer, like with these massive budgets. So it's intriguing what he's able to do, and anything like it doesn't matter really what the movie's about. It doesn't matter what the visuals are. If Jordan Peele's name is attached to it as a director, I will definitely go and check it out because he's just too interesting of a filmmaker to ignore any of his work.
Yeah, I loved Get Out. It was one of my favorite movies that year. Us, I really didn't care for, mostly because I found that the more you kind of tried to break it down, the more sort of questions and plot holes kind of came up. It was like, how did this work? How did that work? What does all this do? And so it sort of isn't the type of movie that like lends itself to be like, I'm just going to turn my brain off and watch this, because it kind of invites you to break it down. And I just found the more you broke it down, the more confusing and convoluted it got, despite the fact that I think the performances were utterly perfection, especially Lupita Nyong'o. The fact that the entire family all played two parts was just unreal to me, and they did such a great job.
Sorry, just to interrupt you there. Like, you're saying it's funny because Us is one of those movies that the more you thought about it, the more the plot holes became very glaring. Whereas Get Out was a movie that the more you thought about it, the more you got out of it. Like, the more that you would notice little things. And on rewatch, it would just like the rewatch value of Get Out is really, really high. And it's funny that the rewatch value of Us is actually quite low. If you just watch Us one time and don't ever revisit it and don't really think too much about it after, it's a great movie. Like, I actually haven't rewatched it since the first time I saw it, and I don't think about it too much. Like, I get where the plot holes are, but like it's just funny kind of how his two movies are very opposite in that way.
Yeah, I agree. And I think through two movies, we now know a few things about Jordan Peele and his sensibilities. One, he can direct the hell out of his actors who always bring their A game no matter what. Two, the look and the style is so unforgettable. There are multiple moments in both Get Out and Us where they're just indelible movie moments now. And three, he's just got such a unique and original way of looking at horror. And you talked about the social commentary aspect, which is a very key part of it. But just taking somewhat tropes and ideas that have been used in countless other horror movies, whether it's stuff like doppelgangers or body switching, body taking over, things like that happen in those first two movies, and then just making it his own unique twist on those, is just shows that Jordan Peele understands the history of horror and how he's able to kind of make it his own. And, people have probably seen this trailer by now, and the trailer basically gives nothing away. We've got Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer kind of doing their thing of being movie ranch owners, and then flickering lights, whirlwind clouds, dust blowing around, people screaming and running, and we don't know what's happening. I know there are some speculation about what it is. There's a couple shots in the trailer that kind of are very unnerving, and I think if you pay close enough attention, you could probably maybe guess what it is. Do you want me to kind of, do we want to talk about what we think it is, or do we want to just kind of leave it as is?
Personally, I want to leave it because I feel like this is one of those movies that when people, we have a really like bad habit, I think, as a movie watching public of just breaking down the minutia of every little thing and kind of, I sometimes feel like we don't get to like appreciate the forest for the trees, or no, what's the saying? Appreciate the forest for the tree. Yeah, I think that was right.
Yeah. Appreciate the trees for the forest. Yeah.
I feel like Jordan Peele and a lot of, I mean, you could say it's for any movie really, but it's like, sometimes I think you just need to just go watch the movie. Like, you want to go watch it. I don't know if nitpicking and looking at all these little things is actually going to enhance your experience, because you go in expecting, oh, this, like, and because everybody is right on the internet, right? Like, nobody's ever wrong. So you assume your assumption is correct. And so you're going to go into the movie being like, yeah, this is absolutely what is going to happen. And then the movie's going to end up being about, like, I don't know, like a Charlie the Chocolate Factory kind of thing. Like, it'll just be something completely different. You know what I mean? So, like, I always feel like it's a nicer practice to just leave it and go watch the movie and just enjoy it, because that's how we used to watch movies back when we were kids.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. And I think if you want to know more about there, it's probably going to be available as soon as people start figuring things out. But if you don't, I think for the most part, it shouldn't be too difficult to maybe avoid it if you're careful. Yeah, this is tough because much like Men, this looks really creepy, and I don't know if I'll be able to watch it in a theater, but I do really want to watch it. So it's going to be a bit of a battle of, can I go into a theater and watch this, or do I have to wait for it to come out at home to be able to rent it or stream it?
If you don't like loud noises, do not go watch it in IMAX. Like, if the trailer was anything, I literally was just freaked out by how loud they made that trailer. And it was like a good IMAX theater too, so I don't think that they were doing it just for shits and giggles. Like, I think they did.
You're talking about like the screeching sound effects, right?
No, it was like, I don't even know what was. It was just a lot of loud noises. Like, it was very, very loud all of a sudden. Yeah. And my guess is when the full movie, they're gonna go like full blast on it. So if you don't like loud noises in your movies, don't go to a good IMAX theater. Maybe go to one of like the crappier IMAX theaters, and maybe they won't care as much about the volume.
Maybe.
All right, so I'm going to wrap up with my last one. And funny enough, I just noticed I basically covered the last 3 weeks of July. So my last one is a bit of a silly one, but it really speaks to me on many levels. It is the DC League of Super Pets, which is coming out on July 29th. Krypto, the Superdog, and Superman are inseparable best friends. They share the same superpowers and fighting crime side by side in Metropolis. However, Krypto must master his own powers for a rescue mission when Superman is kidnapped. So this is a kid's film. It's an animated movie. It's directed by Jared Stern. It's actually his very first movie. And I always like watching kind of directorial debuts, I find. And especially when it's backed by something like Warner and DC. I find that really interesting. It's basically a movie about the DC superheroes as pets. So you're going to have Superman's dog, Batman's dog, Wonder Woman's cat, and like all this kind of stuff. And they have quite a big cast on it as well. They've got it's a very big ensemble with a lot of like Kate McKinnon and Darcy Hardner. It's a very big comedic cast. But the people that I want to highlight are The Rock plays Superman's dog. Kevin Hart is Batman's dog. But who's voicing Batman is Keanu Reeves. So you can see why I really want to watch this movie. One, it's an animated movie, and I do like cute animated stuff. I think it's fun. But also, I really loved the Batman that came out about a month or so ago now, probably, or maybe a couple months ago. But the Batman is incredibly dark and brooding, and a very emo Batman. A lot of people are calling it that. And it is like a very serious take on a comic book. And DC often gets a lot of shtick for taking comic books too seriously. But I think that if people watched some of their animated stuff, like the animated Arm, the Lego movie, for example, they are very capable of being light, light entertainment comic book things, and DC League of Super Pets to me is a really, really good example of that. And so I like that contrast that earlier in the year we get this really, really intense kind of Batman opera. And now in the summer, we're going to get a movie about their dogs. And it's going to be Kevin Hart and The Rock and Keanu Reeves. And that's going to be amazing. And that's all I need to say about that.
So, you are a dog. I am the Batman. I'm not really great with animals.
Yeah, I'm not really great with people. Probably because of my traumatic puppyhood.
As a child, my family was taken from me.
As a puppy, I was taken from my family.
So I steeled myself.
My emotions always in check.
No one ever getting past my impenetrable defenses.
Ah, what the heck?
That can't be sanitary.
I'm not going to lie. I have zero interest in this movie.
It's so cool. It looks so cute. And Keanu Reeves is going to be Batman. That was all I need. When I heard that Keanu Reeves was playing Batman, I thought, I'm going to watch this movie because it's excellent. And I feel like it'll be a good movie for kids to watch as well. Like it'll be right smack in the middle of summer. So it'll be a good one. And, you know, cold-hearted people like you can just move on and go watch your period piece films, like the ones you're about to talk about.
Yep. The next 4 movies we're going to talk about are actually all period pieces.
I was looking at that and I went, oh, that's funny.
Wow. Okay. No, you know, I watched the trailer. I'm not a big Dwayne Johnson or Kevin Hart fan. I think they've kind of both worn out their welcome by doing way too much and sticking to the
on
same
social media,
shtick.
right? Like
in general, both work wise, they pumped out a ton of movies, most of them very mediocre, and their presence online and in the real world is a little grating at times.
Their social media presence, I'm very over it. Like I used to like follow both of them, and then I was like, oh, that's funny. It just gets way too much. Like they're very good at marketing themselves, I think, as like a brand. That's kind of their goal. But then to me, it comes off as incredibly insincere. Yeah.
And I would kind of lump someone like Ryan Reynolds into that group as well.
I'd agree with that too. Yeah. But he does it almost probably better than they do. I think he does a better job of it. Cause he manages to sell like his little, what would you brand his humor as, Ryan Reynolds? Like quippy?
Sarcastic
humor?
And self-deprecating.
Yeah, but like not in a clever way. I feel like he's just very, I don't know, it's like charming and whatnot. But yeah, I'd agree. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you though.
Yeah. But, you know, it's funny. I pulled up the IMDb page in preparation for this, and I was like, why did Rachel pick this movie? And when I scrolled down and saw Keanu Reeves, I'm like, oh, that's why. That makes sense. Because you're going to call me predictable. You are just as predictable.
It is true. It is true. If you tell me Keanu Reeves is going to be in a movie this year, I will go and watch it. I will absolutely go and watch it. Even if, because I don't think it's a very big part for him. I think it's probably going to amount to like a cameo, basically. But yeah. But I have to say, like the rest of the cast looks great too. And I don't know. I like DC stuff, like I said, and I think it's nice to see Warner's doing a good I'm probably looking into this a little bit too much, but like I like that they do a good variety based off of the DC IP. Like they do the live action super serious stuff like Batman, Joker, you know, and more adult things like the new Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey. But then they also do some really, really wicked animated movies, not this kind of animation, like cartoon animation films, for all their DC heroes. And those are really, really good. Most of them are anyways. And then they do something like this, which is incredibly childish and very, very cutesy and very much so aimed at children, which I think sometimes the DC movies get a bit of flack for saying like, oh, it's like they're for kids and this and that. So why aren't you making it for kids? But they do stuff for kids and they're very cute and great. And Keanu Reeves is going to be Batman, and that's amazing. That's all you need to know. Kid. I am a little bit. Yeah, I am a little bit.
All good.
Greetings. We're Technically a Conversation, a podcast for curious people by curious people.
Every week, we take turns presenting a new topic, and the other host has no idea what the topic will be.
We strive to educate in a way that's loose and fun. Our topics are all over the place, from light and funny to dark and sometimes spooky.
Some of the topics we've covered include urban legends, civil rights activists, vampires, pop culture icons, the supernatural and occult, spies and espionage, science and astronomy, and other weird and random things.
If any of these topics interest you, give our podcast a shot. Listen and subscribe at technicallyaconversation.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Parental advisory, we might use strong language.
All right, so now moving on to the last 4 movies of our list, which are all ones that made my list, and hopefully you're a little excited for them too. But
all period movies.
Yes, all period movies, as you pointed out earlier. Thank you, Rachel. First up, coming out on September 23rd, we've got Don't Worry, Darling, which is about a 1950s housewife living with her husband in a utopian experimental community, begins to worry that his glamorous company may be hiding disturbing secrets. So the reason why this made my list is because the director of the movie is Olivia Wilde, which is basically chief among them next to the cast. She did a terrific first feature called Booksmart. I don't know if anyone saw that, but it was a great little comedy. No, I'm kidding. This was a really popular movie, and I think a lot of people were really a big fan of it, kind of similar to something like Lady Bird, this young female coming-of-age story, but, you know, smart and intelligent and doesn't talk down to the audience, and something that people of all ages and genders and sexualities can kind of appreciate as well. And so because of that, I'm very excited to sort of see what she does next. And she has decided to do next some sort of, it's tough to really describe it. It looks like it's going to be some sort of a thriller, a mystery, a serious drama. Maybe there's a bit of scary elements to it as well. Not really totally sure. But the reason why I'm also really excited about it is the leads in it are Chris Pine and Florence Pugh. I love Florence Pugh. I think she's a terrific actress. You know, everyone knows her from Midsommar. Chris Pine, I think people have heard of him before. He's somewhat well known. But it's also interesting, despite the fact that Olivia Wilde directed Booksmart, she did not appear in it, but she's going to be acting in this movie. And some of the other cast includes Harry Styles, Gemma Chan, and Nick Kroll, which are all very interesting actors. Harry Styles obviously being the singer, but showing up in the Eternals movie and Dunkirk and some other things. So yeah, I'm very curious about this. It sort of sounds like it's a bit of a Stepford Wives sort of thing going on, but I'm excited nonetheless. What about you?
I think it sounds really cool. Like, and I mean, we were talking about Nope and those things. Like, I actually think this is the kind of movie that you probably don't want to know too much about going into it as well.
Yeah.
They just did a kind of extended trailer at CinemaCon this week, and like early kind of reactions from it are basically try to go in as blind as you possibly can and just, you know, go in clean, not knowing anything. I'm with you though. Like, I just kind of in jest saying, well, not in jest, I am very serious. If Keanu Reeves is in a movie, I will go and watch it. But Florence Pugh is the same thing for me. If I know that she's in something, like she's one, I remember seeing, I think it was Midsommar, or was it, no, Midsommar. I saw her in that. And then after that, I went and I watched, I think, everything that she's ever done at this point. And she's such a great actress. Like, I think she really is, we say this a lot maybe, but it's like, she is like one of the best working actors today. Like, she's phenomenal, and she's done such a wide range of movies. And I think she's going to be like, I say she's going to be a big star, but like, she already is one. But I mean, I wouldn't surprise me if in say 20, 30 years, like she kind of is at the level that we elevated Meryl Streep to and things like that. Like, I could see that for Florence Pugh. Harry Styles, I think, is interesting. Like, I didn't know much about him, and then I saw him on Dunkirk, and I was like, oh, that's that guy from One Direction. And he's actually pretty good. So I'm like looking forward to kind of giving him a shot, like at a full movie, and seeing how he does. Because in Dunkirk, he's just one of many people. But yeah, and I echo your sentiments about Olivia Wilde as a director. I think she's really interesting, and someone kind of similar to Jordan Peele, where it's like, if I see something she's directing, I am interested to know what she's going to do, because Booksmart was a really, really, really strong first film for her.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I hope that it is just as successful as Booksmart. And you're right. The idea of going in blind, I think that's maybe kind of be some of the theme of the movies that we like to choose is this idea of we don't really need to know everything, you know. Knowing the director, knowing the stars, knowing the genre is sometimes all you really need to know to hook the right people. And I think this is the type of movie that's going to hook the right type of people.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next movie we want to talk about is one called Babylon, which comes out on December 23rd. And right now, the IMDb description says, plot unknown, rumored to be set in period Hollywood. I love plot unknown. Plot unknown is great.
That's actually really funny.
Imagine that's the actual plot description.
Yeah,
just
plot unknown.
Plot unknown. Period piece in Hollywood. It's directed by Damian Chazelle, who most people know for La La Land, but he also directed Whiplash and First Man. He is definitely a bit of a hit or miss director, I think, with me and other people. I loved Whiplash. I was so on La La Land. And I think First Man was a flawed but still very good to great movie about Neil Armstrong. And so because of his track record, I think the benefit of the doubt is given to him. He creates original movies and does so at a level that a lot of other people aren't willing to take the risks. And we talked about some people that we're excited about in other movies, and I think the cast in this is just as exciting. You've got Brad Pitt, who we talked about in Bullet Train. He's going to be playing the actor John Gilbert. Margot Robbie playing the actress Clara Bow, who is in the very first Best Picture winner Wings. It was just announced that Tobey Maguire is playing Charlie Chaplin. You've also got Catherine Watterson, Olivia Wilde again, Gene Smart, Eric Roberts, Lucas Haas, Spike Jonze, Max Minghella, Jeff Garlin, Flea, Chloe Fineman, and on and on and on and on. It sounds like it's going to be a real who's who of who is playing classic Hollywood stars and studio figures, and stuff like this is really always catnip for me. You know, I love stuff like Hail Caesar, movies that look back in slightly comedic tones of the history of Hollywood. It's not sure if this is going to be a comedy or a drama. I think there are rumors that it's going to be sort of lighthearted, but also a bit of a drama and mystery. So it's going to be very interesting to sort of see what's going on. I think the other rumor is that it's really going to dig deep into why things like the Hays Codes existed due to the scandalous nature of some Hollywood personalities. And when we look at the people who are already listed as being involved, I mean, who they're playing, people like Clara Bow and Charlie Chaplin, they had a lot of scandal surrounding them early on in their career. So it's going to be very interesting for this. What about you, Rachel?
Okay. I have a lot of thoughts on this one. So first off, Damian Chazelle, I'm with you. I think probably the exact same decreasing enjoyment of his films. Like Whiplash is amazing. That's an incredible film. La La Land I wasn't a huge fan of, but objectively speaking, I think it's I can understand why people like it. Do you know what I mean? Like I think it's a well-made movie. Yes. It just kind of is not really my thing. And First Man, yeah, that just kind of missed the mark a little bit. But still like visually very stunning movie. I like Damian Chazelle. Like I think one kind of trend that we've seen in our picks here is like we're picking director. Like a lot of our decisions are kind of coming from directors. Like we see Alex Garland, Jordan Peele, Olivia Wilde, Damian Chazelle, and we want to go watch those movies because of the director, not necessarily, you know, whatever the topic is or plot unknown, genre unknown. Like we're just going to go because it's Damian Chazelle and we're interested to see what he's doing. But there's also like this kind of trend now we're going back to like really big ensemble casts, and you just listed off, like, I feel like between Oppenheimer, this movie, and what's the Barbie movie, like all of Hollywood is just, they're all in it. Like everybody's in these movies. It's insane. I love old Hollywood. I think it's such a fascinating time in the history of the film industry, and anything that kind of wants to dive deep into it on a kind of through a contemporary lens, I find really interesting. I also love that he's including Anna May Wong in it because she is an actress, a Chinese American actress who kind of got forgotten a lot by mainstream audiences. I don't think Asian American audiences necessarily forgot about her, but she is someone that was kind of one of the first movers in terms of like when we talk a lot these days about diversity and stuff like that. Like she was back in 1920s, 1930s. Like, so it's along with the Clara Bows and the Charlie Chaplin. So it's interesting. And so I love that he included her, and Lu Jun-Li is playing her. I'm not too familiar with Lee Jun-Li, sorry. But I'm looking forward to it. And I like the inclusion of Anna May Wong. And I like that Damian Chazelle is back with Justin Hurwitz, who has done, I think he has scored all of his movies. And I think the music that they come up with together, obviously more so Justin Hurwitz, his influence, it always complements his films really, really nicely.
Moving on, the next one for me, the last two of the movies are ones that do not have release dates, but they are strongly rumored to be coming out this year. And so the first one is Blonde, which is a fictionalized chronicle of the inner life of Marilyn Monroe, which was directed by Andrew Dominik and stars Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe. Andrew Dominik is someone who I've only seen one of his movies, but it's one I'm a huge fan of, and that's The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I've always wanted to watch Killing Them Softly, but I never got around to it. I am very curious about this. There's been so much news and talk about this movie. Netflix paid a shit ton of money for it, and then got really angry by how graphic and racy this movie was. And there was huge talks about them pulling out and selling the movie and trying to fight Andrew Dominik in court and all this sort of stuff about ways to edit it down. And all of that just made me, all I hear when I hear that sort of stuff is, ooh, Andrew Dominik has a really interesting movie on his hands. And so much like Babylon looks like it's going to tackle maybe the seedier side of classic Hollywood, I think Blonde is going to kind of break down the mythos surrounding Marilyn Monroe and hopefully make her out to still be a good person, because by all accounts, she really was. She had lots of problems, especially with herself. She struggled mightily with body dysmorphia, and in confidence and stuff like that. So she was addicted to painkillers and alcohol and a whole bunch of other things. And she had a very tragic life. But she still was someone who was an early supporter for desegregation and things like that. So she was a very complex person, and I think we've never really gotten a real accurate portrayal of this. I love the movie My Week with Marilyn with Michelle Williams playing Marilyn Monroe. It's a fantastic movie that I think a lot of people forgot about. But this is one that I think is going to be very interesting. I think Ana de Armas, who is Cuban, playing Marilyn Monroe is a very interesting pick. And the pictures of her, she looks like her. She's smaller than Marilyn Monroe, because Marilyn Monroe was a notable, very curvy woman, but she still kind of looks like her. And I think they're going to emphasize that fictionalized take of it, so people aren't going to be like, well, Ana de Armas doesn't look like Marilyn Monroe, really, blah, blah, blah. But we've got some other things like Adrian Brody, who is playing the playwright, which is obviously a stand-in for her ex-husband, Arthur Miller, and Bobby Cannavale, who is credited as the ex-athlete, who is obviously standing in for Joe DiMaggio. So it's going to be a very interesting one, and I hope that Netflix is able to release it unedited as Andrew Dominik wishes.
I don't know how much faith I have that Netflix is going to not be overly like controlling about it, I guess, because it's very different. Like if you put an NC-17 on Netflix movie, how do you even enforce that? how like Netflix I actually find funny. I didn't think about that. Like it's very difficult to enforce those MPAA ratings on Netflix movies. But I'm with you though. I like Ana de Armas. I think she's really interesting. Her casting was interesting. Like, I think a lot of people won't go like, well, she's Cuban, but I also think if you look at her, like, she's very Caucasian looking. She's, I think half Spanish, like, Spanish is what I mean. But yeah, I'm interested. I think Marilyn Monroe has always been a really fascinating character, and I'm with you. I like to see kind of the, it would be nice to see a definitive movie about her life and her psyche and what she was going through, because for as much as we, especially women kind of grow up looking at images of Marilyn Monroe and thinking like, what a beautiful woman, and like so many like what quote unquote iconic figures and pictures of her. But she was, you know, like you said, a deeply, deeply unhappy woman and led a fairly tragic life. So I'm looking forward to that too. I think it'll be a good one. Adrian Brody, he's one of those actors too that when I see him in something, I always find him really interesting. Like he's quite the genre jumper as well.
I just wish he picked better movies.
And because you're right, he's such a good actor, but he doesn't always pick the best things for him. But he tries. It's fine. He works. He makes money. I don't think it's that big a deal. He's got an Oscar. Whatever. He's fine.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
So the last movie I want to talk about is Disappointment Boulevard, which is a decade-spanning portrait of one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time. Once again, this is a TBD release date, but is directed by Ari Aster, who most people know for directing Midsommar and Hereditary. Here he is working with Joaquin Phoenix and doing this large-scale project. But from what we know, it's also going to be a little bit of a comedy. A horror comedy, I believe, is what is being said about it, but a comedy nonetheless, which is something that we really haven't gotten with either Hereditary or Midsommar. So it's going to be very interesting to sort of see Ari Aster in a bit of a different lane, but Joaquin Phoenix working with him gives me high hopes that this is going to be a terrific performance, a terrific film, and it's got a really stacked cast. I think that's sort of the trend through all of these picks that we have is that they've got a very large stacked cast. You know, he's going to be working with Parker Posey, Amy Ryan, Patti LuPone, Nathan Lane, Zoe Lister-Jones, and a few others. So I'm very curious and excited for this. There's only been a couple stills that have come out of on-set photos behind the scenes of Joaquin Phoenix in his old man makeup, and nothing really else is known about this. If this comes out, this is going to be really late in the year, and I have imagined that being a slightly lighter tone is probably going to be the studio hoping that they can push it for the Oscars a little bit, because if it's a straight up horror like Hereditary or Midsommar, I think it would be ignored again, like despite the fact that both of those are brilliant movies.
I didn't know much about this until you sent over your list and I looked it up, and I genuinely had no idea Ari Aster even had a movie coming out this year. I was like, oh, that's really great. I mean, but it sounds like along with most people, everybody really, unless you're Ari Aster yourself or in the cast, you don't really know what the movie's about. And yeah, I'm into it. Like I'm a huge fan of Midsommar, which I would also argue is kind of funny. Just putting it out there. It's kind of a funny movie. But I was looking at the wiki for this, and they're shooting it in Montreal, which is kind of cool. They're doing like a Canadian film set thing, so that's nice. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I agree with you. I think it'll probably be towards the end of the year that they're going to end up releasing this. Hopefully it doesn't get pushed back to 2023, because a few movies have been suffering from that pushback even now. But I guess that happens all the time, so it's fine.
Yeah. Either way, it's, just saying Ari Aster, I think is going to get people lined up to go see it. I believe this is going to be an A24 movie, unlike Robert Eggers leaving A24 to do The Northman, which is fine. I'm still very excited to see The Northman, but I'm just protective of my A24-ness.
I mean, from the stories, like the interviews he's been doing, I don't know if he's going to be willing in the future to do big budget, big studio movies anymore, because it sounds like they did kind of there's a word, interfere. God damn it. I was trying to figure out what this word was the whole time. I think that he's been getting some studio interference from when he was making Northman. But he was saying stuff like he just wanted more penises and stuff like that. So I don't even know if A24 would have been okay with the amount of penises he wants in a movie. So but yeah, I think Ari Aster, he has loyalty, unlike Eggers. He's like, you can't sway me with your budget. I'm sticking with A24. That's the man. Yes.
But that said, those are just 10 of the movies we're looking forward to this year. There's obviously a whole bunch more, and I'm excited to see what else is coming out. I'm excited about this list. I think we put together a good list of 10. Do you agree, Rachel?
I do. I think there's some really cool movies that are coming out this year, and they're done like a variety of directors that I think we're all waiting to see something new from them. Like we haven't seen them in a little bit. So it'll be really nice. And actually, I had a few movies that I saw at Sundance. If you'll allow me the floor to just do a little spiel of a few movies that I saw that I think are really, really great and are coming out this year.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. This is very formal of me. The first one is coming out at the end of May, May 20th May 27th, sorry, on Prime. It's called Emergency, and it was a movie that came from a short film that also debuted at Sundance. It's by a bunch of unknowns. Like, I'm not even, most likely you probably won't know who they are. It is a great, great movie. It's like a satire comedy. It looks at race. It looks at like college life. It really knocked me off my feet. I wasn't expecting it to be anything. Like, I just kind of watched it. Why did I even watch it? I might have gotten an email from like a PR person to watch it, and so I did. And it was a phenomenal movie. So I would absolutely recommend Emergency. So that's May 27th on Prime. There's another movie coming out June 17th on Hulu for our American listeners, for a movie called Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. That's gotten a bit of hype. It has Emma Thompson, Daryl McCormack, doing a two-hander, and it's a heartbreaking film. It's a beautiful movie. It's very moving, and Emma Thompson's phenomenal, and I think she deserves, I don't know if she'll get any Oscar or any awards talk for this movie, but she's amazing in it. And then the last one I want to talk about is a movie called Living, which after I watched this, I immediately messaged Dakota, and I said, whenever this comes out, you have to watch it. It doesn't have a set date yet for when it's going to be released. It's another British movie. It is a remake of an Akira Kurosawa movie called Akiru, and it stars Bill Nighy. I can never pronounce his name right.
Nighy, yeah.
It's phenomenal. Like, it's about a city council bureaucratic worker. He's diagnosed with a terminal illness, and it just kind of looks at the days from when he gets diagnosed and gets the news, and then till he passes away. It doesn't sound very exciting, but it's just like, it's a really, really moving film, and I think it's one of the best examples of a remake of a classic film from a classic director that I've ever seen. Like, they really adapt it really nicely to a post-war London, and taking it from post-war Japan, like Tokyo. So it's a really, really great movie. So whenever that comes out around you, like, keep an eye out for Living is what it's called.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm hoping we do a remake of that.
Yeah, that'll be a great one. I really like that one. I genuinely think you'll really, really enjoy.
Is that all of them, or do you have any?
Yes, sorry, that was it. It was just 3. I picked 3. I tried to be brief. I was like, I'll just do 3.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, we'll hopefully be able to talk about more of those later in the year. Maybe they'll show up in our mid-year list where we do our favorite movies of the year so far, since you were kind of teasing that at the beginning.
Yes. I already feel like I have a list, which I shouldn't, though, because that's like, I should be more open-minded.
You gotta do what I do and keep a running list.
If only there was a website that I could do something like that on. But
if only there was a letterboxed website.
I know, if only. But it's fine. I'll just use my memory, and I'll just remember it that way. It's good.
Well, Rachel, where can listeners find more of your work and you?
As always, you can go to rachelkh.com and find me on Twitter at _RachelKH.
Excellent. Well, you can follow this show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at contrazoompod, and let us know what movies you're most looking forward to this year. Send an email to contrazoompod@gmail.com. Thank you to Eric and Kevin Smale for the theme music, and to Stephanie Pryor for the logo design. If you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, we do post all episodes there too. Thanks for checking us out.